I want you to put yourself in a very specific, incredibly high-stakes scenario.
Okay, I'm ready.
The year is 2000, and you have just been appointed the CEO of Procter Gamble.
Oh, wow. That is a massive job.
Right. I mean, this is a $40 billion global giant. You've got like 100,000 employees looking to you for direction.
Yeah, the pressure would be insane.
And to make matters worse, the company's just in full-blown crisis mode. You've missed earnings expectations in 13 of the last 14 quarters.
Ouch.
Your stock has plummeted by 50%. Morale is practically non-existent. You are losing ground every single day to nimbler, faster competitors.
It's the ultimate corporate nightmare.
Exactly. So, sitting at that big mahogany desk, how do you turn a ship of that massive size around?
Well, the instinct in that situation, for almost anyone, whether you're running a massive conglomerate or just a small startup, is to panic.
Right? Just do everything at once.
Exactly. The natural human response is to try and do everything. You want to work harder, cut costs indiscriminately across the board, maybe launch 100 new initiatives.
Or draft some soaring, poetic new mission statement to, rally the troops.
Yeah, but A.G. Lafley, the CEO who actually stepped into that exact nightmare, didn't do any of those things. He didn't write a new vision statement. He didn't just slash budgets.
No, he didn't. And that is the mission of our deep dive today. We are taking a comprehensive look at the source material, analyzing the seminal business book, Playing to Win, written by A.G. Lafley and his strategic advisor, Roger Martin.
It's such a crucial read.
It really is. Chances are you probably have a document sitting on your desk right now labeled Strategic Plan.
We all do.
Right? It might be a beautiful PowerPoint deck full of industry buzzwords and ambitious revenue targets, but the core argument of these sources is that what you have is likely not a strategy at all.
No, it's a wish list.
Exactly. So we're going to unpack a practical, actionable toolkit for making the kind of choices that guarantee an edge, whether you're running a giant corporation or just managing a small personal project.
And, we should probably mention the teaser up front, just to prove this isn't some abstract academic theory cooked up in a business school.
Oh, definitely.
By applying the exact framework we're going to discuss today, Lafley's tenure achieved staggering results. He doubled P&G's sales, quadrupled their profits, and added over $100 billion in market value.
$100 billion with a B.
Yeah.
Which really proves his approach wasn't magic. It was just a vastly superior understanding of strategy.
Right.
But to understand how Lafley actually saved P&G, we first have to, unlearn almost everything we think strategy is.
Yeah.
Because most organizations mistake vision or mission statements or just operational busy work for actual strategy.
Yeah, a vision statement like, we want to be the premier provider of X is nice, but it tells your team absolutely nothing about what to do on a Tuesday morning.
Yeah.
That's the trap. Lafley and Martin defines strategy in a way that is refreshingly blunt, but incredibly difficult to execute.
Because it's about choices, right?
Yes. Strategy is the deliberate act of making choices. It is specifically choosing what you will do, and perhaps more importantly, choosing what you will deliberately not do.
Right.
If your strategy doesn't explicitly cut off certain avenues, if it doesn't say, we are abandoning this market or we are not going to serve this type of customer, then you straight up don't have a strategy.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to visualize how these choices actually lock together.
Yeah.
Is strategy sort of like building a custom house?
I like that. Go on.
Like the vision is that beautiful, glossy watercolor rendering of the dream home that you show your friends. The operational plan is the architect's blueprints and the construction schedule.
Okay.
But the strategy, the actual strategy, is the hard, agonizing choice to buy a very specific lot in a specific neighborhood, use specific materials, and deliberately decide you're absolutely not going to build a swimming pool so that you can actually afford a better roof.
What's fascinating here is how that analogy captures the constraint aspect perfectly. You and I can't just declare we want a mansion and expect it to magically materialize.
Right.
Your choices constrain your future choices. If you decide to build in a neighborhood where land is astronomically expensive, that immediately dictates that your square footage will be smaller.
Which means your floor plan has to be more efficient.
Exactly, which means you can't have a sprawling grand staircase. The authors call this the Strategic Choice Cascade. It's a tightly integrated sequence of 5 questions where each choice flows down and forces the next one.
So the cascade starts at the very top with your winning aspiration.
Yes. Aiming to win, not just participate.
Right. The sources are careful to point out that this isn't just about playing the game. If you aren't aiming to win, to actually take share and be the dominant player in whatever niche you choose. You're just existing. You're just waiting to be disrupted.
And defining what winning means forces you into the next, arguably most crucial choice: where you will play.
Where to play.
Right, you have to define your battlefield. Are you targeting a specific geography, a specific demographic?
Or a specific channel, like direct-to-consumer online versus big box retail.
Exactly. This is where the agony of choice really begins, because every time you define where you will play, you are simultaneously declaring all the places you will walk away from.
Which naturally dictates the third question, how you actually intend to win on that specific battlefield.
Right. Cost leadership versus differentiation.
Yeah, so if you've chosen to sell to highly price-sensitive college students, your how-to-win choice probably has to revolve around being the absolute lowest cost provider.
Absolutely.
But if you've chosen to sell luxury goods to affluent professionals, your how-to-win choice has to be rooted in incredible differentiation, offering something so unique and premium that price just becomes secondary.
Exactly. The causality is undeniable. But, deciding to be a premium, differentiated brand is just a hallucination unless you actually have the capabilities in place to pull it off.
Which is step 4.
Right. That's why the cascade flows into capabilities. You've chosen your battlefield and your method of attack now. What specific organizational muscles do you need to build? Do you need a world-class research and development team?
Or do you need a killer guerrilla marketing department?
Yeah. You can't just want to be an innovator. You have to hire and train the people who can actually innovate.
And then there's the final piece of the cascade, question 5, which the sources note is almost universally neglected: what management systems are required.
The most neglected step, for sure.
And I want to be clear here, because when I hear management systems, my eyes sort of glaze over. It sounds like corporate bureaucracy.
It does sound dry.
Yeah, but the sources are talking about something very specific. You need actual mechanisms to review, measure, and sustain the choices you just made. Otherwise, this strategy just dies in a beautifully bound binder on a dusty shelf.
It's the nervous system of the strategy. If you decide your capability is world-class R&D, what is the management system for that? It means you literally have to change how you run your meetings. You have to create specific metrics to track how fast R&D is turning out prototypes, and you have to compensate your executives based on those specific metrics.
Wow.
The system sustains the choice.
Well, abstract frameworks are great, but I think we really need to see what this choice cascade looks like when the pressure's on and hundreds of millions of dollars are on the line.
Let's do it.
So let's move from the theoretical directly into the source's flagship case study, Olay.
Ah, yes, the Olay turnaround.
Let's set the scene. It's the late 90s. Olay is in dire straits. Sales have sunk below $800 million.
Which is terrible for a brand that size.
Right, and the brand is literally being mocked in the industry as oil of old lady.
That is brutal.
It's this outdated pink cream sitting in unremarkable plastic bottles on drugstore shelves for $3.99.
Here's the definition of a dying brand. P&G had a choice.
Yeah.
They could kill it, which a lot of analysts actually suggested.
Just scrap it.
Yeah. They could try to acquire a shiny new skincare brand like Clinique or Estee Lauder, but those were way too expensive. Or they could reinvent Olay.
And they chose reinvention.
They chose reinvention, and they ran it straight through the cascade we just talked about. Their winning aspiration wasn't just to stop the bleeding. They wanted to ascend to North American market leadership, hit $1 billion in sales, and invent an entirely new market segment called Mastige.
Mastige, like mass and prestige.
Exactly, sitting right between mass market and prestige.
Okay, so their choice of battlefield, their where to play, was highly specific. They stopped trying to sell to younger women.
Right.
They explicitly targeted women aged 35 and older who were just noticing their first wrinkles. And they decided to stay in mass retail stores like drugstores and grocery stores rather than trying to fight their way into fancy department stores.
That was the where to play.
But here's where I really have to push back on the source material, because this part makes absolutely no sense to me.
Okay, what is it?
For their how to win choice, they launched a new product called Total Effects in 1999, and they completely overhauled the price. They took a product that was failing at $3.99 and jacked the price up to $18.99. Wait, so they saved a failing, outdated brand by making it almost 5 times more expensive?
It's a staggering jump.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah. Hey.
How does jacking up the price to $18.99 possibly fit into their how to win choice? I mean, if I'm ignoring it at $4, I'm definitely laughing at it at almost 20.
On paper, it looks insane. And believe me, the executives inside P&G were terrified of this move, but it is the absolute genius of that prestige positioning.
How so?
The $18.99 price tag wasn't just a greedy way to pad the margins. The price itself was the literal mechanism of differentiation.
Wait, really? The price was the feature.
Think about the psychology of their chosen demographic. You are a 35-year-old woman looking for a serious, scientifically backed anti-aging cream because you're noticing your first wrinkles. Are you going to trust your face to a $3 lotion? No. A low price signals low efficacy.
Oh, wow.
The higher price signaled premium quality and scientific credibility to that specific demographic. Yet, at $18.99, it was still an accessible impulse buy compared to the $50 department store brands.
Ah, I see. So the price wasn't a barrier, it was a signal. It communicated the value before the bottle was even opened.
Precisely. But here is where the cascade becomes crucial. You can't just slap a $20 sticker on a $3 cream and call it a day.
Right.
That how-to-win choice dictated entirely new capabilities. P&G had to suddenly build the unique activity systems to actually justify that price. They had to partner with top-tier scientific innovators for better ingredients.
That makes sense.
They had to develop high-end packaging that looked like it belonged in a department store, not a discount bin.
And they needed management systems to support it. They had to completely change how they interacted with retailers. They had to convince stores to create dedicated premium display space for this product. The result of all those integrated choices. Olay saw 10 years of double-digit growth. It transformed into a $2.5 billion brand.
It's a masterclass in alignment. Every choice supported the others.
Which naturally begs the question, if this choice cascade is so brutally effective, why is it so rare? Why do so many organizations fail to use it?
That is the million-dollar question.
The source material gets deep into the psychology of organizational failure. They outline 6 strategy traps that companies fall into. Strategy as vision, strategy as planning, strategy as stretch like unrealistic goals,
Right.
strategy as best practices where you just copy competitors, strategy is bureaucracy, and strategy is failure to choose.
And we fall into these traps because human psychology constantly pushes us away from hard choices and straight into comforting illusions. Making a choice means closing a door, and human beings hate closing doors.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the sources provide psychological profiles to explain why intelligent people fall into these traps.
Yes, the profiles are spot on.
And I have a confession to make. I was reading this, and I personally relate so hard to the profile they call the planner.
Ah, the planner.
Yes, the planner is the operational perfectionist. This is the person who falls into the trap of confusing a rigid budget or a massive operational checklist for a strategy. I am definitely guilty of looking at a massive, color-coded spreadsheet of to-do lists and thinking, wow, we have a great strategy.
It's arguably the most common trap in modern business. It provides the illusion of total control. You can measure a checklist, you can optimize a budget. It feels incredibly productive.
It really does.
But operational efficiency isn't a strategy. The planner avoids the terrifying work of defining how to be unique by focusing obsessively on short-term efficiency.
That hits a little too close to home. But let's look at another profile the sources highlight, the risk-averse manager.
Yes.
This is the conflict avoider who wants to serve everyone, which leads to the trap of failing to choose. They want to be a premium brand, but they also want to offer a budget line so they don't lose the lower-end customers. I have to ask, is the risk-averse manager actually the most dangerous archetype? Because trying to please everyone and refusing to say no feels like the easiest, most seductive trap to fall into when you're afraid of failing.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you are hitting on the central warning of Lafley and Martin's entire philosophy.
Okay.
Yes, the risk-averse manager is incredibly dangerous because their behavior looks like ambition. They say, let's attack this market and this one over here.
Right, they're spreading resources everywhere.
Exactly. But the source material explicitly warns that attempting to serve everyone everywhere always results in underserving everyone.
Because you dilute the brand.
You dilute the brand, you confuse the customer, and you exhaust your resources. True focus requires the immense discipline to deliberately choose where not to play. It requires looking at a demographic and saying, we are not for you.
That is profound. And the ideal profile we should all be aiming for, according to the text, is the decisive integrator. The leader who embraces those trade-offs and ensures all 5 choices in the cascade actually align. But let's say you've done the work. You've made your strategic choices. You've embraced the terror of saying no. How do you know if your strategy will actually survive contact with reality?
This brings us to the final tool in the book, which is all about stress testing your strategy.
Right.
Because making the choice is just the beginning, you have to validate it. The book introduces their most powerful diagnostic question. What would have to be true?
What would have to be true? It sounds so deceptively simple.
It is simple, but it surfaces hidden assumptions. When you propose a bold new strategy, people usually just argue about whether it's a good idea or a bad idea. But when you ask, what would have to be true for this to work, you stop arguing about opinions and start hunting for structural flaws.
So using Olay as the example, when P&G decided to reinvent Olay as a masstige product, they were making massive bets based on assumptions.
Huge bet.
For that strategy to succeed, it had to be true that women 35 and older would actually pay $18.99 for a product sold in a mass-market drugstore.
Right.
It had to be true that mass retailers would support a premium-priced item on a drugstore shelf.
Exactly. And once you isolate those specific things that must be true, you can design small tests to validate them before you bet the entire company.
So asking what would have to be true is basically reverse engineering your own failure before it happens.
That's a great way to put it.
It's like, imagine you and I are tasked with building a massive suspension bridge across a canyon.
Okay, I'm with you.
Before we pour a single ounce of concrete, before we even order the steel, we sit down with the blueprints and ask exactly what kind of wind would it take to knock this down. We aren't being pessimistic. We are hunting for the structural vulnerabilities so we can reinforce them.
This raises an important question about the nature of strategy itself. Your bridge analogy is spot on because it highlights that strategy is fundamentally an exercise in risk management. The authors are very clear on this point. Strategy is not about guaranteeing success. There is no mathematical formula that can do that. Strategy is simply about increasing your odds.
Now, to be completely impartial, the source material does acknowledge some criticisms of the book.
Oh, certainly.
Some argue that relying heavily on P&G case studies from the early 2000s feels a bit dated in our hyper-fast digital world.
Sure. Things move faster now.
Others point out that the choice cascade lacks the rigid, one-dimensional analytical tools like Porter's 5 forces. And ultimately, making these choices is just incredibly hard. The framework is simple, but execution remains an art.
Those are valid critiques. But the fundamental mechanics of human choice haven't changed. That is exactly why Lafley and Martin insist that strategy is an endless pursuit. It is a daily discipline, not a one-time presentation.
It's a living, breathing mechanism. So let's bring this all together. Strategy isn't a vision or a budget. It's a living cascade of 5 deeply integrated choices. It requires the immense courage to say no and the discipline to constantly ask what assumptions you're relying on. So what does this all mean?
It means you have to do the work.
Right. I want you, the listener, to challenge yourself today. Look at your own life, your career, your business. Are you staking a massive budget or a vision board for an actual strategy?
A lot of us are.
Are you playing the role of the risk-averse manager, refusing to make the hard choices because you are afraid to close off your options?
You can't avoid the work of choosing.
You really can't. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought based on the sources. Since true strategy is defined just as much by where you deliberately choose not to play, what is the single biggest, most attractive opportunity you are pursuing right now that you should actually walk away from to protect your ultimate winning aspiration?